Hey guys, I'm back. Thanks for watching the first video. I got a little lost track of time. I only get 15 minutes with this recorder I have. So sorry about that I took long to explain, but hopefully using that vocab and going through a couple together was helpful. I'm going to continue on now. I'm going to look at number 10 here. Again, hopefully you've got a chance to do some of the other ones, or if not, make sure you get those done as well. On number 10, this is kind of a tricky one that we want to look at. We have a divisor that's bigger than the dividend. So not the end of the world, not something to be too afraid of. We're going to follow the same process, and we're going to start with our 52 here, and we're going to, again, when we have a big number like that, we want to round that to the nearest 10, which of course is going to be 50. Oh, give me a second. It's going to be 50 here. We're going to use that for each estimate, okay, so 50. Now with that, I like one thing that the guy in the first video, the first lesson part, was describing. If we think of these as tenths, that can be a little tricky. 32 and 4 tenths might be a little hard to think, how does that go into 50s? If I think of it as 324 tenths, though, that might help me out quite a bit. So we've got 324 tenths here. If I round that to, if I round that down and just think of like how many tenths it would be, I could think 300 tenths or 30 and 0 tenths. But if we treat it like whole numbers like we've done in the past, I can just think of this like 300 divided by 15. Just know that my answer needs to be in tenths, okay? So we're going to make a decimal at the end to do that. But for now, I can think, okay, if I just think of this like 300 divided by 50, I can cross some zeros here. And 30 divided by 5, hey, that's a basic math fact I know. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say, okay, I know 30 divided by 5 is 6, but I also know that that's not 30 like the whole number 30, that's 30 tenths. So I need to just make my answer be in tenths by putting a decimal here like this. And this is how we can handle these ones. So again, sometimes we'll see when we're working with decimals that we've got some dividends that are smaller than the divisors, and when that happens, it would make the answer be less than 1. Again, that kind of makes sense, because if it was 52 divided by 52, it's going to be 1. If it's 32 or about 32 divided by 52, it's going to be less than 1, less than that. So let's do that for the next one too. If I go to a high estimated answer, again, I might think, okay, well, if I'm thinking in terms of groups of 5 or 50, I can look at it as, I can think of like 35 would be the next number that we can use, or 35 and 0 tenths. Or, again, if I want to think of it like whole numbers, I can think of it like 350 tenths. So again, we're not using the whole number 350. We're thinking of that's how many tenths we have, okay? Now, the same process here. Cross our zeros. We can use our math patterns to know we can just cancel zeros. That makes us have some nice, easy mental math where we have 35 divided by 5, which, of course, we know that is 7. Okay, so I'm going to put 7 in, but again, I know that's not 7 like ones. It's, since we rename this 350 tenths, that means our answer needs to also be tenths, so we can just place a decimal point to help us do that, okay? So there's how we can do those ones. I think the other ones, again, just pay good attention to. It looks like they're making us do some 7s here. This 28, think, okay, I'm going to round that to the nearest 10, so as you go through that. I am going to jump into the next page here, and real quick, give you a preview of this one, page 306, okay? Here I've actually kind of got things rearranged a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and move these back where they were. I was kind of previewing this a little bit earlier. So we've got a chart here where we've got some snowfall amounts and how much snow they get in certain states. We're going to compare a couple. So we're going to compare by estimating, okay? So again, when we estimate, we're not getting exact answers, we're just getting close. And so it's all about just kind of practicing that process of using those compatible numbers. Here we're going to say, how does the estimate of the average daily snowfall for Wyoming's greatest 7-day snowfall? So for Wyoming, we know it's 84 5/10 inches of snow, compared to the estimate of the average daily snowfall for South Dakota's greatest 7-day snowfall. And so for that, we see 112 7/10. Now, the way I'm going to do this is a real kind of quick and dirty and easy, not exactly the greatest numbers as far as closeness to round to, but they are going to help us see these, how we can estimate these to get close quotients and then compare. Now, as we can see, these are both over 7-day periods, so we know South Dakota has more, but just to practice the estimating quotients process again, let's go through that together. So for Wyoming, let's talk about that. We'll do maybe a W for Wyoming, and we'll do SD for South Dakota. Wyoming is over the 7 days, 84 5/10. Now, if you can really think of your 7's facts and your 12's facts, we could know that 7 times 12 would be 84, but if you're having a little bit of a tougher time with that, we can also think just round this to the nearest compatible number, which we might do dividing by 7 here. And I'm going to get a little division guy. I don't have the division sign as far as something I can actually move with, but I'll put that here now. We're dividing by 7. And if I go down to the nearest compatible number, I might think, okay, 84 is compatible with 7, and that would equal 12. But if that's kind of hard for you to think of right off the bat, just go to the next lowest one. We can think, well, if I know 70 divided by 7 is going to be 10. So I can think, well, 7 divided by 7 is definitely a compatible number. So I can kind of set up like this if I want to, and that's okay. Again, it's all about just getting close and whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, so if we look at that, now we can say, okay, 70 divided by 7, well, that equals 10. Okay, so let's just say that's our estimated answer there. Now our next one, I'm going to go ahead and grab and move and copy stuff here. We're going to still be dividing by 7 for our work here for our compatible numbers, but we're looking at South Dakota's amounts now. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some of that. I'm going to get things set up over here. Again, we're dividing by 7. Now, South Dakota's number is 112 and 7/10. Now, for me, again, it's not the closest, but what I would probably just go ahead and do is say, well, I can use 140 for a compatible number here, and that can help me out with this. So I'm going to actually use 140 divided by 7 for my compatible numbers, okay? And then, again, not the closest estimate, not exactly rounding to something super close, but it helps, it works. And then we can say, okay, I know 140 divided by 7, or sorry, 14 divided by 7 would be 2, so 140 divided by 7 would be 20. So what your job is now is like, let's talk about how that compares. Now, of course, you want to go back up here and just say, how does the estimate compare from one to the other? We can say, well, South Dakota has more than Wyoming over that 7-day average. We could say something very simple like that. Okay. Now, the next one I want to look at is number 15 with this Alaska and over a month compared with the greatest 7 days. Okay, so just with this one, I'm going to kind of start you off and set you up with the division parts we want. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit going. So with this, we're going to do some division here. I'm going to kind of do it on here, even though you want to do it on where you're showing your work down here, but just so we can all see things in the same place. I want to do this kind of here. So if we're looking at the month average and the week average, let's talk about that now. Okay. Here we're talking about how much snow Alaska got in a full month, and then also in a week. Okay. So I'm going to kind of do them like this so we can compare. Okay. So they tell us the greatest number in a month is 297 and 9/10 inches. They say this was in February of 1953, which is actually pretty impressive because February is the shortest month. Now, you might say, well, Mr. McComb, is it a leap year or what? 28 days, 29 days, whatever. In this case, it doesn't really make a difference because we're going to round that to the nearest group of 10. 28 and 29, whatever it might be, would both round to the nearest group of 10, which would be 30. Okay, so we're going to say, okay, 30 days. And let's think about that. And for the week, of course, that's 7 days in a week, and we're going to keep that 7 days. Okay, so I'm going to kind of leave you off with this and see if you can figure out what we're going to round these to. So again, for the next part, we need to think of the dividend for the month. We have 297 inches for the for that month. So think, well, there's a compatible number that's really close. So it would help me out with 30 for that one. Then for the week, Alaska here, 186 and 9/10 for the most in a week. So think here, when I talk about the week amount, I'm going to round that as well. Again, think about what we did here. We picked numbers that are super easy, right? 70 divided by 7 is 10 because 7 divided by 7 is 1. 140 divided by 7 is 20. You can just do that. It doesn't have to be something super, super close. It's all just estimates. So I would say even for here, I might go ahead and just say 210 for this one. If I round that up to 210, that gets me pretty close. Okay, so I might think, all right, I'm going to use 210 for my estimated compatible number for for that week for Alaska. Okay, so again, think about this. Think about what would that estimated answer be, and then I'm going to let you kind of fill in what's going to go here. So if we have the month of February, the record divided by 30 would tell us for every day. Think about what compatible number. Pretty close one. It would actually be a really good estimate if we can think there. 297 and 9/10. So we give you a hint. We can go up just a little bit, and we're going to get a nice and easy compatible number. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pause there. Make sure you guys finish that up. Tomorrow or the next assignment you've got is the homework. So if you need to look back at this video, definitely do that. But we're mostly just looking at, again, using these compatible numbers to estimate our quotients and help us do some mental math by using those basic facts. Okay. Shouldn't be writing anything out as far as actually working out long division. We're going to do that soon. Right now, the only things we should really be writing down are those compatible numbers, okay? That way we're working it out. We're getting close. We're getting set up for what we'll get into next week when we actually find these exact answers, okay? Again, hope you guys are doing well. Again, we do miss you. Hopefully you can see you soon. Hopefully you're getting along just fine with your family. I know it's kind of tough being in the same place all the time, but we're doing what we got to do here, okay? All right, go GA. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.